Recording in progress.
So, hello, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing fine. So, can you share briefly with me how your day went?
It was busy. I did my first ACAP test and then had my like regular day,
Okay, and how was the
like work.
test?
It was good.
Good, that's fine. So, today, my day also went well so far, and I believe the rest of the day is going to be fine. So, today we're going to continue quickly from where we stopped. So, the last time we spoke about the types of environments. We dived a little bit deeply into it, and we were able to emphasize on the natural environment, the built environment, and the social environment. But today we'll be focusing more strictly on the social environment, and in subsequent session, we will talk more about the built environment, and then we will round it up in the last section. So today, like I said, we'll have a quick recap. So from the last class, what do you think you can remember with regards to the definition of environment and the types of environment?
Um, the environment is like a combination of like natural, man-made, and social environments combining together to create one society, basically.
Okay. Okay. So
And do you
go
want
on.
me to start
Yeah.
explaining the three?
Yes, please.
Um, the natural environment is basically like everything that's like already here, like plants, animals, or like stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then man-made is like what humans created on top of like nature and like built on top of it. And
Okay.
then social is how humans like use both of those to like have fun basically.
Yeah. So it's more like an interactive platform that exists between man, its built environment and the natural environment. Okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
So we'll progress. That's a good one. So from the image you have on the screen, can you quickly tell me what you can see in on the screen, and then can you classify what type of environment you have
Okay.
on the screen?
The first picture is a picture of a bald eagle and it has like some trees in the background.
Okay.
Um, the second photo is an alligator with like a bunch of like grass or like bushes and then like a water area. The third photo is two dolphins in like the ocean basically, and then there's like a few mountains in the back. The last one or like the fourth one is like mountains with trees. The fifth one is monkeys, trees, and like some other like bushes and then stuff like that. And then the sixth one is elephants and like there's like grass, like there's a bush and then there's like a bunch of trees. And
Okay.
all of
So
these are natural.
good, good. So that means basically everything you can see on the screen with respect to the pictures is classified as the natural environment, right?
Hmm.
Good. So today, like I said, we are going to dive more deeply into what the natural environment is and the interaction that exists within the natural environment. And that is why I showed you all these pictures before we proceed. So today we're talking about the components of the natural environment. The component of the natural environment. So the first component of the natural environment is undoubtedly man. Man is the principal actor of in the natural environment, and then we have other components like plants, animal, water, the solid portion of the earth, the atmosphere, the air, and the likes. But all these components are categorized into units. Okay, so which makes it that we have basically 6 units that comprises of the components of the natural environment. And these 6 components are the biosphere, the atmosphere, the pedosphere, the lithosphere, the hydrosphere, and the cryosphere. So we were going to look at each of them one after the other quickly, and then we would be able to look at how each of them interact within the environment. So what comprises of the biosphere? The biosphere is the zone where life exists. And within the biosphere, we have man himself, we have the animals, we have the vegetation, which is the green plants, and every other living creature that you can imagine or think of. That is where we have the biosphere. And then in the atmosphere, we have this is where the earth gases occurs. It's the earth gas layer. All forms of gas that you can think of exist within the atmosphere. And the atmosphere is something that we cannot touch. We can only feel it. Okay. And then we have the pedosphere. So the pedosphere is the Earth's soil layer. The soil exists in layers. Okay. So that is where you have the pedosphere. So the soil, if you are digging into the earth, you will discover that what you have on the surface will be different from what you have and in a little meter dug into the earth. And if you dig further, you will have variation of layers as you dig further into the earth. So that is what we refer to as the pedosphere. Then the fourth unit is the lithosphere. The lithosphere simply means the solid portion of the outer part of the earth. That is the surface, the solid surface. Is the lithosphere. And oftentimes some scholars categorize this as the rock portion. That's the hard portion, which oftentimes are the rocks. That's what the lithosphere is. And then we have the hydrosphere. The hydrosphere is the portion of the earth that is covered by water. Okay. And then we have the cryosphere. This is this situation where the water, as we all know it, if it is not in its liquid form, it will be in its ice form. Okay. So when water is not in its liquid form and it is in its ice form, that is what we refer to as the cryosphere, which is the 6th unit. So we'll move quickly to the next slide. So within the natural environment, from our first class, we were able to conduct like a introductory background to know to establish what the environment is and what type of environment we have, and possibly know the meaning. And in the second section, we were able to define each of them deeply, right? So today, from the definition we had from the second session, we agree that the natural environment comprises of all living and non-living things that occur naturally, right? And this comprises of humans, land, water, air, plant, and animal. Each of these examples, you would agree with me, falls within each of the sphere that we talked about in the previous slide, which we refer to as the component of the natural environment, right? So the living components are otherwise referred to as the biotic, while the non-living components are otherwise referred to as the abiotic. Okay. So now the question is, what are the examples of the biotic and what are the examples of the abiotic? So we will look at more of we will look at the example of abiotic so that we can understand it in depthly, and then we'll be able to see where some of the examples lies in the component of the natural environment. So from this slide, we have examples of the biotic components, which we otherwise refer to as what? The living components, right?
Mhm.
So can you read to me some of these examples as we have it on the screen?
The plants
Mhm.
are the plants would be like biotic because like they all like give off things. Um, the um lion would also be that because it like it's a living thing and it's not like something that isn't like not giving off, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, like the insects, they also are living and biotic because they aren't just in one place and they need things to let them live.
Okay.
And then microorganisms, they do the same thing.
Okay. So you've done well with the brief explanation you've given. So the examples of the living or the biotic components are plants. They are the producers because without plants, nothing can survive. Plants are what gives every other living creature life. Do you understand? Because if we don't eat, we can't live, and we get most of our consumption from plants. Okay, so all kinds of plants are otherwise referred to as producers. We also have another component which is man and animals. These are consumers. We basically consume. Animals also consume. Okay, and that is why we have man as both carnivorous and herbivorous. We eat plants, we eat animals. Some animals are also categorized under um, um, being carnivorous and herbivorous, okay, because they eat both plant and animal. And then we have insects and small organisms, okay. These are consumers and they are also decomposers because they as tiny or as simple as any insect or organism is within the earth's ecosystem. They have their role that they play. Without them, the earth cannot be balanced. Okay. So we also have microorganisms that we cannot see with our naked eyes. If you must see them, you need telescope. Okay. And then these microorganisms are otherwise referred to as decomposers. We have bacteria, fungi, and algae. So from the pictures on the screen, can you match each of these picture with each of these components of the natural environment?
The plants are producers because they make or they get oxygen and they let it out.
Okay.
The lion or like animals are consumers because they take in, like they eat and then they
Yeah.
take in stuff.
Okay.
Um, the insects are consumers and decomposers because they can like break things down and they also eat.
Good.
And then microorganisms are decomposers because they break things down.
Good. Good. So we move to the next slide where we have the non-living, which we otherwise refer to as the abiotic components of the natural environment. Now, from the screen, can you read out to me from the outline the examples of the abiotic components that we have in the natural environment?
Sunlight, soil, rocks and minerals, mountains, rivers and streams, oceans and seas, temperature, wind, climate, weather, and deserts.
Good. All these abiotic components, we cannot, some of them we cannot see, but we can feel. What are the examples of the one that we cannot see but we can feel?
Air,
Here. So that is where you have the temperature, the wind, the climate, and the weather. Okay. You cannot see them, but you can feel them. And other components are the sun, you can see them, the soil, you can see them, rocks and minerals, rivers, streams, mountains, and the likes. All of these components are non-living things. Okay. they are not living. However, although they are not living, they exist, okay? And their existence has a huge role that it plays within the ecosystem, okay? Because without the sun, there can be no light on Earth, okay? There can be, we won't have what we call the day, okay? Another component that is not on the list is is the moon. The moon provides light at night, right? We also have the stars. The stars are also some other components, okay? They also provide light at night. We can see them. They are not living creature because they do not have life as human being. They don't walk around, they don't speak, but they are natural features that plays huge role within the ecosystem. Okay. So from the four pictures on the slide, can you tell me what you see in each of the slides quickly? In each of the pictures quickly.
I see sunlight, grass, air. Well, I can't see it. Water. I see mountains, clouds. I see mountains again, and then some plants, and then I see a desert.
Good. So these are the features that are referred to as abiotic. Okay. Then there's an interaction that must take place among all these components. We've talked about the examples of abiotic and abiotic components. All of these examples, you can find some of them across all these spheres or all these components of the natural environment. Okay,
Mhm.
you can find organisms and insects. You can find some of them in the biosphere, and you can find some of them in the hydrosphere, which is the water body. Okay, you can find some of them in the lithosphere. Microorganisms, you can find some of them in the biosphere, you can find them in the lithosphere, you can find them in the atmosphere. Okay, we have some organisms that are in the air. You cannot see them, but they exist right there in the air, right? You can also find some of the components, the component of the number of the abiotic, that's the non-living things. You can find them where? In the atmosphere, right?
Mhm.
You can find them in the biosphere. Hmm? The sun, where does the sun stays?
In the sky,
In the sky, okay? That's in the space. Where does the wind stay?
in the air.
In the air, in the open space, it's just right there in the space. You can't see it, but you can feel it, okay? The
Mhm.
same thing with the temperature, the same thing with the weather, and the same thing with the climate, okay? There's a difference between climate and weather. Weather occurs over a short period of time. In a day, you can have variation of weather condition, but climate exists over a long period of time. Okay, so we've gone through the spring um period, where most times it's always cold, right? There will be snow. The weather almost every day is cold. At some point it will rain, but gradually we are transitioning into the summer period, where what happens? We experience more of heat, right? That is a good example of how the climate operates. Okay, but within each climatic period, you can have variation of weather condition. Okay, sometimes when you are home, you will just discover that when you wake up and look through your window, it's snowing already, right? And then you will just wonder that, oh, a few minutes ago it was sunny and now it's snowing. And then if you go back to sit down before you come back, check again, it will be sunny again. Do you understand? And at some point it could be raining. So these are variation of weather condition that can happen within a particular climatic period. So all of these are how the um, environment, the natural environment, interact with one another. Okay, And within the natural environment, you can human being can harness different resources. Okay, in the biosphere, the biosphere allow human being to plant, okay, and cultivate. And when they plant, they need the sunlight to give the plant photosynthesis, right? Because the plant requires the sunlight to grow. The plant requires water to grow. The plant requires nutrient from the soil to grow. And where does the nutrient from the soil come from? The the pedosphere, which we refer to as the layers of the Earth's natural environment, right? It is on the lithosphere. It is from the lithosphere that we dig and we are able to harness some natural resources like iron ore, like crude oil, because it is when you dig deep into the earth's surface that you're able to access some natural resources, also like gold. You know, it is from the crude oil we get, um, it is from the crude oil that we harness from the pedosphere or the lithosphere that we process and we get gas from, right? We'll get diesel from it. We'll get some other natural components that are necessary or required for our survival. Okay. So all the features or all the components that man can harness as much as possible come from the natural environment. Without any of this, we cannot live. Man cannot live. Animals cannot live. Okay. So all of these things interact together to ensure that the atmosphere is in a balanced state. Sometimes when we eat our food, even when we plant and we harvest the crops from the plant, we process them, we eat some of them, and we leave some of them to do what? To get damaged, right? Why? Because probably we cannot finish them during consumption, or we were not able to provide a good storage facilities. All of these things did not go just damaged. They go back into into the natural environment because microorganism feeds on them, insect and bacteria and organism feeds on them. Okay, and then some of them get rotten and then they turn into manure to replenish the earth surface again. Do you understand? So
Mhm.
this is how they interact. We can talk more deeply about how each of these features or components interact within the natural environment. So quickly, within 2 to 3 minutes, I want you to explain one basic concept that you've learned from today's session.
How that even if you can't like see it or it doesn't like have an effect, it can still be a living thing and it's like still part of nature and stuff like that. Like the sunlight, it helps. It may not affect you, but it can help like plants and other things that you need to grow. So then we can use it as like food and stuff like that.
Okay, good. So, do you have any question you want to ask me before we round up for today?
Mm-mm. Oh, tomorrow I'm going somewhere. Is it okay if we start our meeting at 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock. Okay. I will look at the possibility of changing the time.
Okay.
Yeah, because the Zoom session the Zoom link, I've already stationed the time to for 4:30. But I'm going to look at the possibility of influencing the time. But if I can't, just let me know through your mom's contact, and then we might probably skip tomorrow and do Monday. Okay. But if I can do the reflection, I'm going to send you a new Zoom link. Is that okay? Yeah. So the next topic will be on the components of the built environment. We've done today, we've looked at the component of the natural environment. So the next one will be the component of the built environment. And we'll also look at how these components interact. And then the last session will be how both the component of the natural environment and the built environment interact as a whole. All right. So I'm going to see you in the next section. I wish you um, a good day. Enjoy the rest of your day, okay? Bye.
Bye.